Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host, John, better known as Dare on Yakspin. We have a fantastic show for you. A new competitive weapon set is coming, WvW core event has begun, and new merch on the way, and much more. But first, let me introduce you to my fellow hosts. He is a moderator over at MMO Champion and host of Zero to Hero and also Vote to Kick on this very channel. Now that we have new competitive weapons inbound, will he become one of the many passengers in the Zerg or risk his life going toe-to-toe in SPVP? Say hello to Jim.
I don't know. I have to get back into SPVP because there was a point in time where, and this was before a lot of the Mirage nerfs, so maybe I can get back into it for some of these because I have been saying they need their own unique stuff. But also, if I end up disappearing, there's lightning out there, so...
Well, we live fairly close, so it might end early if that's the case. Don't, no.
I'm wearing the wrong shirt for this.
Apparently we all are, and you'll see when we go to the 4-box. He streams over on Twitch where he answers the age-old question. With the core swap event, is he still a thief main now that he has got to try skills from a good profession? Say hello to Age.
Thief is also a good profession. Loophole. Because all my skills are mainly thief, and I just have a secondary set of skills, like in Guild Wars 1, like in the good old days, or I could be a dervish monk. I miss dervish so much.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, we kind of have it in the sense of like Necro's, Reaper a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I like Reaper.
A taste of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, every player's a Revenant now. That's what the Mists actually did. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, I'll ask it when we get to the segment. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're wondering what we're talking about, we did talk about it a little bit last week, but the WvW Core Swap special event is actually going on right now. It started July 5th, and it will go all the way to July 12th. So basically how it's going to work is in WvW only, so if you're in PvP or just open world PvE or raiding, it's not going to happen there, but defeating an enemy player in World vs. World will spawn a glowing orb over their corpse for a short time. Claiming the orb will grant you access to a special skill that allows you to use the healing, utility, and elite skills of the defeated player's profession. Now that is important to note. It isn't like you get whatever ones they were using. It is a set certain skills, like I think they used in the example in the blog post, like a thief gets, I forget what the exact ones were. It was
Scorpion Wire, Thieves Guilds, Scale Venom,
and Blinding Powder.
Oh, okay, yeah, and like we have here, Elementalist gets Ether Renewal, Lightning Flash, Cleansing Fire, Arcane Shield, and Tornado. Engineer gets AED, Rocket Boots, Net Turret, Elixir S, Supply Crate. And I guess since I'm reading this is important to note. It isn't what your profession is. This is who you kill and pick up their orb. These are the skills you're going to get. So if you kill a Guardian, you're going to get Shelter, Judge's Intervention, Purging Flames, Sanctuary, and Feel My Wrath. If you kill a Mesmer, you're going to get Mirror, Arcane Thievery, Mantra of Concentration, Feedback, and Mass Invisibility. Oh boy. That's gonna, why'd you do that? If you kill a Necromancer, you get Consume Conditions, Well of Power, Blood is Power, Corrupt Boon, and Summon Flesh Golem. If you kill a Ranger, you'll get Troll. I know. Is it Ungent? Okay, I was gonna say, I think I always say it wrong in my head, but Lightning Reflexes, Spike Trap, Quickening Zephyr, and Strength of the Pack. And if you kill a Revenant, good luck. You get Soothing Stones. So yeah, I think had this question last week. Yeah, you're just gonna get Chalice. So you're gonna get Soothing Stones, Inspiring Reinforcement, Forced Engagement, Vengeful Hammers, and Rite of the Great Dwarf. And we said how Thief, if you kill them, you'll get Withdrawal, Scorpion Wire, Blinding Powder, Scale Venom, and Thieves Guild. And lastly, if you kill a Warrior, you'll get Mending, Bull's Charge, 4 Great Justice, Endure Pain, and Battle Standard.
Yeah, some of these setups are like old school ones, like the Elementalist one. And
I'm actually kind of disappointed in the Revenant one. That's just jealous.
Yeah.
no, I think that was a good choice, honestly.
I mean, it's a good choice out of the 4 base legends to choose from, but I don't know.
Now, when you kill someone, is it only one person can pick up the orb, or can other people flock to it?
Pretty sure it's one person.
Oh, because it would just be so fitting if you just had a whole group just hit the right of the Great Dwarf and they all become the Great Dwarf. Like, my Guild Wars 1 nostalgia would go crazy. But sorry.
No, that would be kind of cool. Could probably set that up, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Just have someone die and then like have
I will be that Revenant because I'll probably do it anyway.
group of 20 people just and they each kill Revenant 20 times and then it's like they all have it.
Oh yeah, no, this
God.
is yeah. Chat's saying it's better to kill a thief and everyone summons Thieves Guild. Yeah, this isn't for like
Efficiency.
efficiency. This is just pure lore nostalgia of just harking back to Guild Wars 1 when everybody took the right of the Great Dwarf and well, mostly everybody before someone.
Oh God, I hope that I said this when we talked about this last week. I do not want to see this incorporated into the base game. As cool as I think this whole setup is, the game isn't ready for more player power systems.
Yeah.
Like, we're not ready for another round of elite specs. We're not ready for another round of like anything that could affect competitive. Just it's not because at the end of Heart of Thorns, balance was good. PvP was fun. I knew what I had to do to fight people.
Yeah. And then
But this could be early testing for like because I know we were talking last week of like could this be a new way to introduce how to do like a elite specs, but this could just be how does a warrior feel with traps or
How do people
you know.
react to having these different abilities?
Yeah, so it could just be early testing of possible elite spec combinations.
I'll tell you right now, if Thief gets like Shiro Legend, it will be broken as all hell.
Well, yes.
That's why I'm kind of happy that they put Jalis in, because I feel like Jalis is a pretty solid base, whereas if you gave Thief with Shiro or Necro and Mesmer with Malix, it would just be an utter nightmare. Ventari healing with Druid type of deal, So like having Jalis, it's like a sturdy, it has like some damage, some support, So I think it was a good option.
Oh yeah, we did toss around that idea of dual, like a type of dual professioning last week of it, but I think it would be if they would go that route, it'd be more controlled like this similarly. But yeah, also chat's saying, and I was gonna ask like, how did you guys feel of these skills that they did give you the ability to swap to? Were they good, or do you think they're good skills, or
they're not all supposed to be good?
I was gonna say they're not the greatest ones. When I was kind of reading through them, I was like, okay, that's an interesting choice.
So like Elementalist, if you look at that one, for example, Ethereal I'm not really sure of, but like Lightning Flash and Cleansing Fire are pretty good. Tornado used to be good. I don't know how it is now.
It's still good.
Okay, there you go.
Like
And
shit, people use it in PvP, so
an Arcane Shield just blocks, range attacks, explodes for critical damage. Seems nice, but then you could like swap back to your base stuff. So it's supposed to be complementary to your build. Like you could build your utility build to be complementary to like survivability or damage based on what you aim for killing. So if you aim to kill an elementalist and get that stuff and run around with that all day,
Yeah,
So-
and Chad's bringing up a good point. Like, while I was saying it doesn't matter who you kill, if it's a guardian, whether they're elite spec or not, you get these skills. But like Chad is saying, say if you're the firebrand and kill a Mesmer, and you get some of the mantras, that will take effect with your firebrand trait line. So, like they're saying, there has been some interesting synergies to come out of this, but.
do Mesmer mantras get the The
ammo kind of a system thing.
can't remember.
I think they did make them switch over to that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I will be right back.
I do have that.
At least
one.
some of them. Okay. But
You can have a Chrono and Necro with the Well of Power. That could be interesting. Oh wow, actually that'd be really good for boons.
mm-hmm.
It just further that could be really fun.
I'm trying to see real quick if any others like.
Ranger, I think, is really nice for like roaming personally. Lightning reflexes and quickening zephyr is pretty nice. Like because quickening zephyr gives quickness, but you don't have a pet, so that kind of sucks. But
I was gonna say, didn't one of the other new elite specs get cantrips?
I did. So did I.
Okay, so what are some of the perks you get as a thief with cantrips? Because I was gonna say the elementalists.
I do not get a cantrip trait.
Oh, you don't? Jeez.
No, but
thief.
whenever I use, I'll reiterate that I don't get a cantrip cooldown trait. I do get a cantrip bonus trait. So whenever I use a cantrip, if I have the trait slotted, I can get an extra stolen skill. So I can kind of like chain cantrip, stolen skill, cantrip, stolen skill.
I was gonna say great, and one of the elementals ones is a teleport. Great, that's what a thief needs is another freaking teleport. Getting out of
that teleport isn't that far, to be honest.
Yeah, but it's annoying enough.
Yeah, it's like does it break stun? I think it does, just by default. Yeah. And cleansing fire, that'd be nice. Cleansing.
So does that work? Like, if you do the cantrip tornado, like literally, could you like be a thief or a deadeye, I guess technically, and turn into a tornado and then steal something from someone? Like, someone just got Wizard of Oz. It's like tornado stole all my stuff.
Yeah, but I was thinking about like certain builds that would be like very beneficial for some of them. I feel like engineer is kind of like a bursty type, and you have survivability with Elixir S. You drop a supply crate. I feel like you just drop supply crate, net turret, and then just go at it with your base skills. You swap to other skills. If you need it, you swap to get Elixir S type of deal. Guardian seems pretty nice. I think for more havoc-y, just because of the consecrations. I don't know. There's like a lot of interesting things here.
Chat saying Ranger and Guardian were synergizing pretty well. I'm just surprised.
Oh yeah, if you have Druid, actually works well with.
Oh, because they get meditate. I was looking at that. I was like, did someone get meditations at some point? I was like, because I was trying to go through each of the types, because that was my thing. I was going to say Guardian. It's a little bit tough because consecration. Like it was a consecrations and shouts, and I knew elementalists. The the shout eventually, and so did Necros. But I was like, it compared to their shouts, it was like not that much. Like, I don't know. I just didn't think it was that big of a deal to get. But yeah, I guess meditation would be pretty good, especially because you're teleporting and adding a condition.
Which is very, very interesting. I think. Oh yeah, with Warrior you have like shouts, you have physical skills. Very interesting.
But I mean, if you haven't tried this yet, definitely do hop in, because even if you don't want to like really pick up the orbs, you really don't have to. You can even just keep them there just in case you ever need to switch to something real quick, just in case. But while you're in World v World, they're running the double World XP, 25% extra World v World reward track progress, and 50% plus magic find in World v World for the whole duration of the event. So you need to get like the gift of battle. Maybe you're going for a legendary or something. It's like good time to go in.
It is a good time.
But Yeah, I would say overall, what do you, like so far, since we're pretty early in. I mean, it's started on Friday, so we're only not even 2 days in technically, because I think it started. Well, this was another controversy. Was I guess it technically started a little bit late because it didn't start with the reset during EU.
They should.
It only started during the reset of NA, so it was a little bit later.
That. Yeah, I guess so. Started at 6 Pacific time, so 9 Eastern time. So that's the next morning for EU, I guess. So it's like EU has probably gotten like around 12 hours in, I think.
Yeah. So, but yeah, overall, I mean, you guys think this is a fun event or like a good one that's supposed to be shaking it up?
I'm gonna hop in. It's supposed to be like a fun event, one-off event, and I think it's very interesting just to see what types of setups people try to go for, and try to keep and stay alive and what's good, because like that makes World vs. World interesting for me, and I've been like looking for something to like hop into World vs. World a little bit more often. So like this kind of does it for me. So I'll probably hop in a few times this week. So it's fun.
Yeah, I'll admit it's not a WW. I have to be in the mood for, so I haven't had a chance to jump in for this. But just in a general sense, for concept for the concept of it, it's pretty impressive. I like the idea behind it. So good job.
I was just scrolling through. I was looking at like how the official forums were talking about it. I do like this one comment of, and I didn't even realize this of, they said the event is fun. Apparently they were on voice comms, and they were saying it was hilarious as people got LE Rev Thief and then lost it by running over a Ranger orb. So I guess apparently, like they were saying here, you can, while it's easy to activate, it's just as easy you can deactivate it and lose it type of thing. Like
I kind of wish you can press F to like get the change like right away. It would like highlight collect Ranger orb or collect Necro orb.
Now I have to ask: is it like when one person dies, does that orb technically spawn on a player basis, or if somebody picks it up, it's gone?
Player basis, it sounds like.
So like one person can die, and like the 5 people that killed him can go pick up their class orb.
Yes.
Okay. The only problem is at that point is if you press F with the auto targeting in this game and people dying in a pile, it's basically a grab bag at that point.
I don't have auto targeting.
Yeah, because he's a pro level thief.
Well, I meant like the stuff with pressing F is it tries to
looting. Yeah.
Well, it tries to prioritize something that you're close to or like that you're looking at, stuff like that.
I guess so. Because I guess if you don't have auto loot, that could be a problem.
But it's a minor quibble, I would think, for something that like you'd have to press F for. So.
And this is the first time they're doing it. Maybe they'll bring certain ones back and tweak it a little bit, because I don't know. I think it is interesting enough, and it shakes it up. It does what it's meant to do, in my opinion. But
yeah, I can agree with that.
But yeah. So that seems like that is it for the world stuff. Hopefully after the 12th we'll get let's talk a little bit about the Alliance. Fingers crossed. But a little bit of slightly sad news, especially if you use the particular tool. GW2 Raidar is closing. For people that aren't aware what that is, it is a DPS log parser site that retains high-level data about uploaded encounters. So basically it allows you to compare your individual and squad performance against everyone else's, which will then allow you to further analyze your post-fight logs. So apparently they are taking the site down August 1st. They actually said on Reddit, after much consideration, they have decided to shut down the GW2 Raidar project. Unfortunately, due to personal declining lack of interest in the game, development, resourcing, and general financial / lifetime constraints, they are no longer in a position to keep the website continually updated, let alone implement much needed new features. They will continue to keep it hosted and up for one more month until the 1st of August, like we said, after which it will be taken down. If anyone is interested in taking over, please feel free to PM them. Once it is taken down, all data will be deleted forever. Now, since you guys have rated more than I have you guys ever used this or know people that have? Or
I haven't like I personally haven't had a use for logs or okay. Well, I'll say I've used the DPS. Uh, I've checked my DPS, but like after a while, it's like, oh, okay, I can hit numbers. I can hit numbers properly, so I don't really need anymore. I'm not gonna. If I need to like up my numbers, I'll just go into the golem area and just practice, and I have a DPS meter in there. But I have not personally uploaded anything. I don't know if I know some people who have logs, but I don't know if they upload it to this site in particular.
yeah, I was gonna say I honestly haven't heard about it since, but like I said, I'm not into the rating scene from the stance of, knowing the tools and the assets. But um but I know a lot of people have been trying to find alternatives, which I was trying to pull up the link here, but apparently Reddit is dying at the moment. But
Yeah.
yeah, talking about the rating scene. Maybe
I mean,
if you're, I'm sure you're more familiar than. Well, I know me. Um, how influential was the GW2 Raidar type thing? Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard of ARC DPS.
yeah,
That's
I
why I
think
was like, when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, that's a thing. But I wasn't sure
like,
if.
yeah, a site like this would be like you can upload those logs, right? So you can take your ARC DPS logs and put them up on the site, and then like it sounds as what the site does is it parses all the information based on fight. So like if 50 groups fought Veil Guardian, and they can take like an average of DPS, and then you can see like average DPS for Connie Scourge on Veil Guardian, and see like what the average DPS is, what the highest is, what the lowest is, success rates, all that stuff. So from there you can get a better idea of what you could do to improve type of deal. I don't know if it breaks it down into rotations or anything like that, but
Oh, okay.
I compare some of them. So that's the type of thing I would expect from a parser site. But
that, and it's also for a little bit of EPing.
Yeah,
because that's another thing that was used from at least my experience with them in World of Warcraft was primarily for boasting, for people uploading their logs. But
yeah, with like on like with hardcore decline, and the interest in raiding is declining, not necessarily from the difficulty of fights per se. Like people may enjoy those fights, but it's just that people don't want to wait 9 months for a raid wing type of deal. That's and like when's the last fractal we got, right?
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like there's not much in terms of difficult, challenging content to do outside of like the new stuff. And I said this, after a while, if you've mastered it within like a week, you're probably going to be doing it for a month, 2 months, but then you're going to get a little bored, right? And you want something new, something challenging. And you have to wait 7 months for that, so it's kind of rough.
Yeah, I mean, I know to go down this road again, it's like kind of beating a dead horse in the sense, but yeah, I kind of along the same lines as the World v World thing, but I mean, these raids have seen more updates than World v World, but um, yeah, they got to figure out some way to lower, like, shorten that turnaround time.
Yeah.
It's that's the problem. Is it's not anything about. It's not really about the turnaround time. It's rating in Guild Wars 2 is not an end game. In all of the other games that had rating rating was end game. Like that's what you were pushed to do. World of Warcraft, Rift. I don't know about any of the other MMOs. I think
No, that's usually the end game. I mean, pretty
Final Fantasy
straightforward.
14, it's you're pushed towards rating. So without there being any impetus in the game other than go get the cool skin. I mean, I realize it's Fashion Wars and that's the end game of Guild Wars 2 for a lot of people, but there's other things available. So unless you absolutely positively need to get that skin.
Yeah. I it's I don't think it's not necessarily just rewards, I think it's more about just trying to like people go in for like a challenge and they want to feel you get that feeling of accomplishment after you beat a boss and yeah and then like once you do that you want to go back in to master it type of deal like that's what I feel like high-end players do. So you go in and master it and get that time down to like to a science or get like the fights down to a science, find better ways to beat it type of deal.
My problem is I think the people who purely want the challenge are less of the rating scene than you would think.
Yeah. And other people who I would say other people who would want to I think like more I don't want to say casual. I want to say other raid groups. I'll say like other raid groups will mainly go in for beating the bosses and getting their collections for legendaries, whether it be armor or coalescence or what have you. But also maybe even some of the exclusive weapons or things like that. But and also for the social aspect, obviously. So, but just I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
like
like I
raid.
said, we're kind of straying down like the I like I said, I just never heard of the GW2 radar thing. Like chat was saying, I heard more about Art DPS. It's just so, but I have seen people say uh in the one Reddit post that apparently there is a slight alternative referred to as DPS.report. Um, but apparently that doesn't have like an account system, so you basically have to keep track of like it's harder for you to compare your stuff against others. It's kind of just grouping all the data together. But
Yeah. Like for me, again, like I don't really like I do decent DPS, so it's fine by me if I don't have a like a logger. But if I was like going to join a high end guild raids, like I would probably want to get my DPS a lot higher than it is now. But
Nah, you're fine.
Not up to me at that point. So and Roka's saying that it's 30, 40 people left in Tokyo. Yeah, so it's more about it's all about how raids are being implemented, how they're being like put out months at a time, uh, and also the raid stigma that comes from other games. There's a lot that goes into it. Um, it and you know it kind of sucks. And I said this before. It's like we've Guild Wars 2. We have been grown into the game with that mentality of a casual sense of that, like, we can go in, get something really cool, and then like put in not too much effort, like put in some effort, not like an extraneous amount, and you get something cool for it. And you could do that like for an hour or two a day if you wanted. You can even play for like, you do your dailies for 30 minutes. You can go to like a Dragon Fall for half an hour or something like that, and then just like, get some decent experience card and loot, what have you.
And it seems like chat's saying, apparently not even the good, comparatively good, or the higher end groups aren't even posting their stuff to Radar
Okay.
themselves, so it's not even a good comparison, which is a shame. That I think this is like almost like an glorified leaderboard, which is something I think people have constantly said they'd want to see in game, not just for PvP, but originally it was for, people were like, oh, let's have leaderboards for fractals, which they talked about, and it kind of, but I think raids would also be a good thing, kind of along the lines of you've had tons of people do competitions and stuff like speed runs, or it's just
The only reason that the World of Warcraft logging site, I think it's World of Logs, the only reason it did so well is because it grew with raiding in World of Warcraft. It's the only like people who raided that you got your logs, you got your DPS reports, and you had it generate through an add-on in the game. You didn't have to do anything extra other than throw the add-on into your add-ons folder, and then it spat out the report and you uploaded it to the site. The problem with Guild Wars 2 is there's not exactly add-on support. You have to do a bunch of extra stuff to get the logs, and then you have to upload it. And I think even World of Logs, I think their add-on eventually would just automatically upload the log to the site in the first place. So you didn't have to do all the extra effort. So I think it's more barrier to entry just for the logging site even is keeping people from using it. And then like Rock is saying about, people not uploading, I mean, I'm going to guess that the bleeding edge raid teams just don't really care about comparing themselves to other people, because as long as they get their DPS down, they get their times down, et cetera, that's all that really matters, right?
You could say that for a majority of groups. They may not even care about like comparing to other people. They just care about getting decent numbers, like based on like, I don't know, Shinokros or what have you.
Right, Raka, and that's the other point, is that it's like in comparison to World of Logs again versus Radar, is that the sample size is not good, which is going to be a problem when using a logger on a niche. Using a logger for your DP for your combat report is niche in a niche game mode, in a game that like looks at rating as kind of like an ancillary thing, like Rocket just said, 30 to 40 people who are left in the hardcore scene. So
and that's my biggest question is, in reality, and I know they always said like, oh, raids, you're gonna have to have a group to do raids, but pugs do it all the time. It's not, communication is the key, whether it's but I think that's where, once again, it was almost like the MMO manifesto got in the way of actually making good content, where my dogs are even angry about this, but it just is one of those things where they were like, oh yeah, it's going to be hard stuff. It's like, did they, in the design meetings and whatnot, was that one of their pillars of like developing it?
It's interesting because MMO is definitely is one of those things that can develop over time and could change direction over time based on the player base, what they're asking for. So like, people have been asking for raids for a long time when Guild Wars 2 came out, right? and it was like a little lull. But then you still have the people asking for raids. Eventually they come out with raids, right? And it was good. But now it's like you have, again, people have the stigma. People have to like find groups, things like that.
And I would also say on the other side, the people have a stigma of, having the inclinations from other games. People are looking for hardcore in Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is never about being hardcore from what I've seen in like ads and stuff. It's like,
Yes.
so I would say it's a fault on both sides, and even from the spectrum of gamers, thinking it's going to be too hard, and then the hardcore people saying it's too easy. It's like, that's how it was probably always going to be. Now, I wish they would have portrayed that maybe when they, but they were like, no, this is going to be the top of the top,
It's not necessarily they wanted raids to be like the hardcore thing. It just wanted to be a challenging mode that people who wanted to test their skills, like or like within a group, can do that.
I think one of the bigger issues is that people wanting more and more of a challenge is that Guild Wars 2 is probably one of the most skill expressive MMOs I've played.
Yeah, that's true.
Anecdotal, subjective evidence, being I haven't exactly played every single MMO on the market. I'm not the lazy peon. The man is a machine, I swear. But
well, I got a story afterwards, actually.
But I feel like Guild Wars 2 at base level as a game, I can't play other MMOs anymore. Like,
it's hard, right?
I need the dodge roll. I need I'm okay with some of the skills locking me in place briefly, like Meteor Storm, Barrage, some other ones that I don't necessarily remember. But like, the combat is so fluid that I just can't play any other games at this point.
Well, I think, and I was thinking about it this morning. It's just like, we really take the combat system in Guild Wars 2 for granted. Like, I do not see, maybe ESO does it, but like, I don't see any game that combos other skills together, like like the traditional fire field, and you shoot an arrow through it. It's a fiery arrow.
Yeah, it's not like that for ESO. At most, they have synergies that you can basically switch to, like, you can get a synergy on a skill, and then someone can run up and hit X on it, and then
so like there's no like cool combinations you can do with other people, like on the fly like that. And like the weapon system, like people were questioning at first, but it's actually pretty cool. And you have a predefined set, and then you have utilities that you can define at your whim to make a build. It's very cool. It's very interesting. It's very unique, and it has spoiled a lot of us in that sense, because when you go into other MMOs, it's like, I'm locked in place. It's like, oh, I can't heal because I need a healer. It's like, so it's very cool. And I'm surprised I can play Final Fantasy, honestly, just because of this, of these interesting mechanics. So that's one of the cool things about Guild Wars 2. So.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm sure like a hardcore Guild Wars player out there that's came all the way from Guild Wars 1 was like, it was always about the PvP. It was always about PvP, not all this other, crap and blah blah blah. Well, they're kind of giving a little throwback to Guild Wars 1 players. If you're into PvP or World v World, they are designing a new competitive weapon set. I think, did we talk about last week about the voting, or did that all happen in 1 week? It's been a kind of jam-packed week.
That happened yesterday.
With the voting poll? I thought that...
Yeah, the poll happened yesterday. It'll finish yesterday.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we talked about it. No. Okay. So I think we talked about it last week, at least the voting for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure, but yeah, these are some of the weapons they were showing off just to give people an idea during the voting process. But yeah, I kind of like the look of them. They look nice. Like they look fancy.
Imperial look to them, you know.
Oh, are you going by the hammer that's in there,
Oh,
or do they have the? Wait,
no, they have like a whole
where's the list? There it is.
array of them. They have that like imperial vibe. And they're interesting because it looks kind of like
Sorry, my power is flickering right now.
from. It's like kind of the mist weapons from World vs. World. I forgot they're called already.
The obsidian ones?
No, not the obsidian ones. The ones that you get from the tournaments.
Oh,
what now you can
the
trade
champion ones.
Miss Champions one. It kind of has a little bit of that vibe to it, but then it has that rustic finish on some of them, which is pretty nice. And
Oh yeah, those look good.
I've seen people who like, yeah, these are way better than the other ones. So
I'm kind of disappointed that it's PvP and WW. Because yet again, I'm gonna go back to the whole PvP thing of like PvP. SPVP needs something unique.
I
It gives.
Yeah. PvP needs like awards you can only get within a time frame. They need seasons, and they need to put it within a season. Not necessarily Guild Wars 2 size seasons, but like
it need like that's the whole thing. Is like you need to be able to express just like SPVP has an armor set. And that's it. And it's there. I mean, if you want anything more than the armor skin, you have to go into the overworld and craft, which means that you have to get to 400 to get ascended crafting because you have to make the Grandmaster marks to buy that armor. Insert my other rant about the Grandmaster crafting marks being stupid. But, it's not like there's nothing that you can get solely from SPVP that you don't need to go to some other game mode for.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I personally think that they just need to bring back like a yearly weapon or a back piece or something.
Like we all thought the year of Ascension, the Ascension was going to be.
Yeah, honestly, it's a joke at this point. I'm not really, honestly not happy about it till this day.
I got the Ascension. I'm not even all that great.
You got it after, right?
Well after.
So yeah, I don't mind if there's a yearly back piece and I miss one or something like that. If I'm a PvP player, like look at League of Legends, man. I do not play ranked tonight, and there are some cool champions you can get just for playing and getting gold, which I can easily do, but I just don't.
Well, that's the thing that I bring up is that your rank at the end of a season means nothing. So that's that. But I don't want to get too far into it. Though I suppose that kind of dovetails well into our next topic with some post on Reddit where somebody's talking about losing touch with Guild Wars 2. In a post on Reddit from, let's wait for it to load, user Coolion, recently I've been feeling lost without much to do in the game. The feeling that PvP is declining with poor matchmaking and cheating. Yeah, you're not wrong, Fongo. Speaking of, WW is stagnant, which, to be honest, I'm not entirely shocked that people feel that WW is stagnant because a lot of the development time from the WW team is probably going into the Alliance team right now. Raids and fractals are fun but boring after constant repetition. Living Story is good, but you have to wait a long time for a short amount of new story, and they're not an achievement hunter, which I can understand not necessarily being an achievement hunter. Maybe I've just done everything, or maybe I'm just burnt out on the game. But I love Guild Wars 2, and seeing other MMOs, especially like ESO, coming with expansions packed with content like Elsewhere, or Final Fantasy XIV with Shadowbringers, leads me to feel quite empty. Guild Wars 2's next expansion being years away, after an entire extra season of Living World, is quite depressing and leads me to wanting more.
So, much like my losing touch with my internet temporarily, people apparently are losing touch and interest with Guild Wars 2. What were you guys talking about?
It's not necessarily fair to compare the GW2 upload schedule to other MMOs.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say my internet. I was like, well, it was a joke.
Well, I don't think it's fair to compare anything to your internet, but
Ouch.
Well, yeah, it's more like it's kind of like a yes and no on that, right? Because like from what I've been playing in Final Fantasy, they have a lot of story content, a lot of quests that people can do. It feels it correct. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like it's really hard to not be doing any quest in that game. Maybe until like a certain point, and then you just do dungeons and gear up and all that stuff for raids. I honestly don't know end game in this game just yet. For Guild Wars 2, it's interesting because right now it is 3 months for story, 9 months for raids, and it was supposed to be every 6 months for 4 to 6 months for fractals, but we haven't had any fractal in a while. I
Yeah.
don't, and that cadence is kind of screwy since the layoffs from
Yeah, I was
February.
gonna say, isn't that the cadence they gave us prior to all that? Like, do we even
yes.
know if that's still the cadence? Like,
Well, it's something they have to
yeah.
get back to, and I
Or
can't.
communicate that it has changed. I mean, hopefully
Right.
not for the worse, but would be better to know than just sitting here wondering. We're all World v World now, boys.
Yeah,
It's just my bigger problem is that like Guild Wars 2 is like the game is okay if you step away from it to something else. I've been replaying God of War 4.
yeah.
Like I love Guild Wars 2. I'm gonna come back to it when there's story. I want to get back into fractals, but I need to find like a static group and a night to do fractals on, just because having it scheduled would be easier. Like it'd be easier for me to fit it into a schedule rather than just do it randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since, and I talked about Fashion Wars previously, I need to get ad infinitum to finish my Guardians look. So there's that.
Oh.
But it's Guild Wars 2 is a guilt-free MMO to me. Like I can stop as long as I log in during a chapter release. It's there for me. I can do it whenever I want. Heck, the personal story on my Guardian, it still tells me to go to Fort Trinity.
Nice.
It's like every time I finish the next chapter, go to Fort Trinity, and I'm just like, yeah, it's cute. And eventually, I'll go back to that.
You go there and you go in there. You go, Traherne. I need to tell you about the future, man. I mean,
cute a Doc Brown-esque rant about how no one should know their own future.
Oh, could we just have the Traherne voice actor come back just to do that verbatim? Like,
it'd be pretty fun. But I don't know. Like, yes, raiding and like dungeons feel repetitive. Like, this is one of the things that were statted out here is that's something that happens in any game. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty common thing.
I got bored with raids and dungeons in World of Warcraft long before I got bored of them in Guild Wars 2.
But yeah, I don't think the problem is like there's no new ones, right?
It's just feeling burnt out by them. That's the problem.
Yeah, there are no new ones, so you keep repeating the old ones.
Yeah, because I was gonna say if we're gonna slightly compare like cadences, at least like ESO, I know I haven't played XIV. I know they just came out with an expansion, but I know ESO. Their strategy is they I think have 4 releases throughout the year. I think 2 of them are supposed to be dungeon releases, which I think they release 2 dungeons with them usually.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think one's usually like their chapter thing, which you have to pay for. It's like basically their expansion like thing without calling it an expansion. Chapter, who knows? But then I think the other is like a story bit. And then somewhere in there they usually put in a trial, which is their raids.
Okay.
But it's like, yeah, they're doing a good job of servicing each of those populations. And
Okay, so interesting. Variety. Yeah, that's true. Because the only real, I think they're trying to do it with those like special events type of deal and festivals. But it's
And I'm glad someone in
depends
chat's
on
saying
what.
that, because I was trying to say that, what was it, during one of the after shows the one week, a couple weeks ago, where I was like, looking at it, like Guild Wars 2's raid release is kind of on par with most MMOs out there. Granted, I don't think to the, well, it's hard to say the in depth of it, because yes, it doesn't have as many boss fights. Like if you look at straight, like there's some of the other games have raid bosses of like 4 to, I would say, even 7 on the high end, but we kind of hover around the 3 area, like at, but I don't know. It's like I would argue some of like Guild Wars 2 probably has some better story than you would probably find in some of the other ones. But once again, that's also not a subjective. That's very case by case, like opinion.
And I agree. Like the raid release, and this is again why it's not necessarily fair to compare Guild Wars 2 to something like another game with raid release schedules, is because those raids are the vertical progression. You are expected to have to grind against an encounter to get the gear drops to make that encounter easier to progress further in the raid. Guild Wars 2, you already have the gear going into it. You're already at the stats you need. You just need to perfect your technique. Once you perfect technique, you're good. And then when you've got all of the people who have already been working together for a very long time with all of these other raid wings perfecting their technique, they already have the teamwork down. They just need to learn the new mechanics, and then they're good. So it seems like Guild Wars 2's release schedule takes longer, but that's just because stuff gets cleared faster, because you're not expected to need to fight that raid to finish that raid.
I was gonna say, I'm wondering. I now want to kind of go and like see if like there's the same complaints in the ESO forums about their raids, because I don't think ESO's is a power creep. Like there isn't a next tier. There might be unique sets or something like that, but I don't think it ever really necessarily makes you
Stronger.
like, yeah, it might be it's like, oh, maybe this will make myself a better build that will give me X amount more damage. But I don't know about XIV. It seemed very traditional, so I would imagine it's probably like WoW.
It seems more on the traditional end, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's probably more of a tier treadmill type thing. But yeah, granted, like this is coming from someone that I haven't really gone into trials all that much in ESO, so if there is someone out there that has more experience with it, I'm pretty sure that it isn't they do have like the regular trial and then veteran trial, so, but I think it just increases drop chance or something, but I don't think it's really
I think if there were challenge modes in raids and fractals, it would give more in Guild Wars 2. I think it would give people more to do, but it seems like at least for fractals there hasn't been any for the recent ones. And I don't know about raid. I haven't actually checked in this latest one.
I will admit before I go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, H.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
That kind of like go out into the open world and get stuff to make the raid easier. I mean, that's technically cooking and getting your sharpening stones and all your other enhancement items. But on top of that, getting some other kind of unique item, like you go out, you farm some kind of consumable that's unique to a raid, is a better breadcrumb than you getting a mail that says, hey, there's a new raid. Or at least it's more of a breadcrumb, because then it gives people, like, if you make them not account bound, which, let's be honest, they probably would be account bound, because that's the annoying goddamn thing about cooking in the entirety of Path of Fire, is everything you make. I think it was all Heart of Thorns too. All the new cooking recipes are account bound, I think. So like it's one of those things where if this like plus damage to Jin or reduced damage from Jin thing was sellable, you'd have more traction on the trading post. It would allow people that weren't raiders to interact with raiders apart from selling stuff on the trading post and having it be completely faceless.
Hmm.
Because then, like, there would be the raiders who would go out and farm the stuff themselves, as opposed to, you know, buying it off of the trading post. So
it's creating an economy that involves both player types.
exactly, like, it would be more churn. Like, I feel like Guild Wars 2 has gone so far down the single player MMO that
It really has, yeah.
kind of have to pull back from that, because the, like, we've got the massive, but we're just kind of an MO at this point.
Yeah. Because like I used to play Living Story with a friend of mine, but now it's just like I play by myself because like
Yeah, because I still remember hearing the, what was it? Because you try to run with your wife, Jim.
Yeah, I try to run with Krista, but
and-
she hasn't. She's been crushed lately. I finished both of the latest chapters myself.
Well, I just remember during, what was it, the last
Shining
was
Blade
it last
trial.
yeah, the Shining Blade one, where it's like the other person can't do anything, or they just don't get their skill. Like, it just doesn't feel good to be the second person.
The only thing I was able to do was throw grenades from a balcony.
Yeah,
And the problem with throwing those grenades is I couldn't target the floor. The targeting reticle actually snapped to the balcony I was on, despite
so
having.
you basically threw grenades at yourself while someone went and fought.
Yeah, like I could do literally nothing.
It's like, you're doing great.
And yes,
No,
Mofongo, I'm saying I want player interaction. Like, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, not like a boss fight type of deal, right? It's like you want, like, not, you don't. Everyone doesn't show up for Shatter when it's time. You want like.
Well, honestly, I think the biggest failure of the expansion so far is that consumables are account bound. Like cooking, people joke about cooking, but it could have been so, like, you could have made a sizable chunk, like cooks could have been a huge part of the economy.
Okay,
if their items weren't account bound.
You bring up a good point, and I think it's a good point you bring up now, just because they're going to add a new tier of cooking. So, do you think they could salvage that
with ascended cooking? Yeah, maybe. But
do you think they will, or they'll go the route of all the ascended gear?
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say, is that like everything else in ascended is all account bound anyway.
Would it be ascended cooking per se, or would it just be a higher tier of cooking, do you think?
Well, I don't know if they'd actually have like ascended quality items, but like 400 plus, like 400 to 500, it's always for yourself. So
yeah, and I was gonna say, whether they call it that or not, if it's moving from 400 to 500, people are just gonna probably refer to it as ascended, because that's what they're used to.
But I feel like cooking could be an exception in this case.
But the problem is, as much as I want it to be, the problem is it hasn't been.
Yeah. Well,
for the past two expansions, they
food anyway. For food, because we don't have ascended food whatsoever.
Right.
It's just, I think the thing is, it would be such a weird shift where, like, they're like, I think what Jim's saying, all the way up until 400, like near the end, it's like all soulbound for yourself. And then when all the other professions, or sorry, crafting disciplines switch to it's just for yourself, that's when cooking's going to decide to go, no, it's for everyone. It's like,
to be
how
honest,
backwards of a game thing would, like.
To be fair, cooking is a great deal different from all the other crafting professions. So
yes.
I do think it has the opportunity to flip like that. I don't think it will.
I don't think it will.
I hope it does, but I don't think it will. And it's just, as much as the trend has been, it's been, you know, you have to cook for yourself. Like, instead of, you know, it being a driving force of the economy, like getting consumables in World of Warcraft was, like, half the consumables people get that they buy on the trading post, it's all stuff that you can sell on the trading post. All the guides I see that suggest stuff for for a build, it's like, you can either use this if you have a max level cook on your account, or you can buy this from the trading post. It's like, there should not be an or there. The first item should be available to buy on the trading post.
And you know, chat's bringing up the point of, like, you know, another tier is just waiting on content that might fix things. I mean, in the end, that's any release of any, like, you're hoping if it is successful, yeah, it fixed it. If it isn't, then yeah, you're in this scenario that we're talking about, and like some people are worried will be the alliance system in War v World. It's like, I mean, for any game that they just put out another thing that hopefully address it, it's like, but yeah, it's, I just,
I mean, you're not wrong. Like,
I just realized my air conditioner's on. So do you hear that?
haven't heard it the whole time.
Okay. Sorry.
yeah, but I don't know. I think in the end, it's like there are a lot of options out there, and I think in the end, it's horrible. I know people say don't like to hear, take a break from the game or something, but if you're not enjoying something, spend your money out elsewhere, because at the end of the day, tons of friendly people at ArenaNet, but at the end of the day, it is a business. What they're gonna hear at the end of the day, bottom line, is how much money are they getting?
It's yeah. Also, at the same time, there are people who just like are mono gamer. I had this talk with I think Iggs once. It's like people are mono gamers and that they will want to play one thing. So if Guild Wars 2 is their game, they will just want to play this one. I think Malthanas was there too. I don't know.
I might have been. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, we've had people in chat that are mono game, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just
Yeah. So it's kind of hard for them, like to go to another game because they really just don't want to. They just want to keep playing games.
Well, the problem is if you want to make an MMO a mono game, you have to add grind, and then people complain about grind. So, like World of Warcraft had grind. Look at reputations for anything. Every single expansion had rep grind. Every single time, and then they also had daily gating.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, heck, the rep grind was actually doubly done because half the time you had to do dailies to get your rep, and you only got like 3 or 4 dailies per faction. And even then, there was a point in time where you could only do 25 daily quests a day. So you had to pick and choose which rep you were grinding. So, like that's the only thing that can really stretch MMO content is time gating, or other arbitrary gating mechanics.
And we all know about that.
We all know how people react to that. It's just like, if you don't want any kind of gating, you're going to finish the content you're interested in a set amount of time.
But
Then you have to. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna just wrap things up if there was.
Okay. No, I'm good, because if I keep going, it'll just be a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of these are one of those ones where it's like you could easily slip into, and we still have one more to trench through, whatever the words are. But you were talking about stretching content. Sorry, my own transition's making me laugh. You're talking about stretching content, but what I'm really excited for is Wild Bangarang. We talked about them, I think, a couple months ago. They were kind of throwing it out there, but stretching content, taking this IP, and do you see some of those leggings in the merch store stretching the content?
Oh, that's what you're going for.
Yeah, it was so bad I was laughing. But no, we talked about them before. Now we don't. They teased that there was going to be Guild Wars 2 apparel coming soon, and Wild Bangarang, if you're not familiar, is a UK design company who kind of specializes in geek and gamer apparel. And I do have a couple of things from their website that you can see, like World of Warcraft stuff. I think they have like Warhammer, a couple other things, but seems like pretty cool like gear, which I'm kind of curious to see some Guild Wars 2 stuff, which apparently now it seems like it is going to be soon. So
I'm trying to think of what kind of I don't know what leggings they would. Sylvari leggings or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
That wouldn't be bad.
Like that vest looks cool. You can see cool things like that.
yeah,
Oh,
those are cool designs.
Those are Ultramarines pants. I think I need to go buy a pair of those.
Yeah, they have good. Like, I was even impressed with some of the female ones. Like the dresses kind of look like the armor piece things, and that you would see in an MMO. It's like, why are they wearing a metal dress? Like, So
Yeah. The dresses are kind of cool.
I've seen those textures before.
mhm.
Yeah, it's just interesting how they're going to differentiate themselves from like the base shirts, the products like that. So they
Yeah, I'm
make
definitely curious to see if they'll go this route and see what is.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Boo with
And
boo.
and it's kind of nice because the people, another people thing that people were praising for was since they are a UK designer, usually the European countries kind of get boned on shipping when it's a
Now
company
it's
from the
Archer.
US. Yeah,
Yep.
so
Oh, I'm
you
good.
know.
Doubly screwed actually. Shit.
I was gonna say, I was like, how do you figure? But okay, I was like,
Go Canada,
Oh,
where they don't like you shipping anything in ever.
oh well.
but yeah, so definitely we'll keep an eye out for that when they actually release the stuff, the actual stuff, so we can actually show it off and be like, yeah, I definitely want to get that. Or, but you know, any other thoughts on the Guild Wars 2 apparel coming to Wild Bangarang?
I'm legit curious what leggings are gonna come out.
Yeah,
I gotta.
that's
Yeah.
seeing their previous work. I'm definitely interested to see what they'll be. A soaring gear in child sizes. That would be amazing.
I have to see what they're going to put out for Guild Wars 2 before I'd be willing to buy it. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's, but you know, we shall see. But you know, like we were saying, what you buy this stuff, it gets shipped to you, and you know, you open the box, it's not the thing you wanted. The cool thing is you could return it and get the thing you actually wanted. Unlike loot boxes. Speaking of loot boxes, of course, I'm sure tons of people have heard Jim Sterling, who you know is an avid person against loot boxes and kind of the predatory habits that a lot of game companies have tried to do as of recent.
I just
But
heard
his his most recent video has caught a lot of attention, even more attention than normal. But also, there is a brief moment where someone mentions Guild Wars 2, and so of course it showed up on the Reddit and people were talking about it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because the video itself talks about the effects of addictive gambling on people and how game companies are taking advantage of that kind of a thing, and how some companies, and he kind of focused on EA, especially how the person in question, when they were in front of the European government, just kind of was just like, didn't seem like they cared, that they were like, no, it's perfectly fine and moral and great and dandy. And it's like they could say that with a straight face, that but yeah, we're gonna mostly try to focus. I know it'll bleed into the other stuff, but that there was a quick mention of Guild Wars 2, and that they think that Guild Wars 2 kind of falls under this category, especially with we have blackline chests and mount licenses. But I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts and chats as well.
I'll admit, because I am sub to Jim on YouTube, because I do think he does good journalism for video games. Watching this video, I kind of had a knee-jerk reaction of Guild Wars 2 isn't that bad, but I suppose that's kind of bias on my point, because I kind of like Guild Wars 2 a lot, what with being on a podcast and streaming it on a semi-regular basis. Also, apologies to anybody who was going to watch the stream Wednesday. I got back at 11 o'clock at night, and I think I fell asleep immediately after that. So apologies for nothing going on this Wednesday. One of the points that I was just reading through some of the comments that people talk about is microtransactions tend to be bad if the game is made worse to allow for microtransactions to exist. One of the things I've always complained about with gliders, with mount skins, is that there is no in-game thing for them. You get the default glider. Every other glider that you want to get, okay, sorry, sans the legendary backpacks. My apologies.
That's a legendary. But
No, it requires investment more so than anything, but the gliders and the mounts have no cosmetic options other than a purchase. The same cannot be said for armor, because I mean, we complained enough about not getting armor and weapons in the game that they started putting armor and weapons into the game again, because we were complaining about like everything is outfits and everything is in the gem store, and the community was loud enough to the point where they're like, okay, fine, here you go. And we were grateful because it gave us all something to work towards. You can't work towards a mount skin, and mounts are made inherently worse because they literally only have one die channel. And as we've said countless times before, Guild Wars 2 is Fashion Wars. The end game is your character's look. I don't necessarily think I can.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to bring up, was you could theoretically grind for the gold, but
right. But everything in the gem store is priced knowing that gold to gems exists. So,
and I was to say the slight other problem is it's not like, you know, you buy a skin in game, it's always going to be, let's just say 25 gold. You go to the cultural person, it's always 25 gold. That something that's 400 gems won't always be, and I'm just going to say, let's just say it's 1 for 1. I know it isn't, but it's not always going to be 400 gold, like the gem gold conversion. So it's
a stock market effectively.
Yeah, it's
which
it's a little bit more muddied.
You have to play it well.
Yeah, it's interesting, but at the same time, it's there's a lot of big priced items, and I'll admit that I bought one of the mount skins. I bought the lion for the griffin because I thought it looked getting awesome.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times where I was like, oh, I'll get a mount like set, like the what is it, the branded ones, and I was like, oh, that would be so cool. They die so well. But I luckily stopped myself. But yeah, I have not. I think I bought the Halloween one, the first one that came out. But I think I
think that's why you didn't buy it. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's like the problem isn't us. We aren't the thing that makes these bad. Okay, maybe age is part of the problem, but
no, actually, I've only bought the Shrine Jackal one, and I bought the exosuit ones.
And how many Black Lion keys?
I'm a fan for Cyberpunks type of deal, so like I had to.
And
I may have bought a few keys.
A few. It's see,
you have more keys. You had more keys on your account than at a janitor's convention. Like, come on.
Okay.
Ooh, wow.
I bought a lot of keys, but that was only to meme Teapot that one time.
Okay, so to Wispy's point, they have made the game worse for the skins because, like I said, there are no mount skins in game that are in-game obtainable, and your mounts have a die channel that, quite frankly, is kind of garbo for a lot of the mounts.
It's one die channel. It's pretty
bad.
But
at the end of the day, it is cosmetic.
Well, let me give me a minute. That is, and the problem is all of their other examples of cosmetics, like the primary example of cosmetic in the game is armor and weapon skins, in which case there have been armor and weapon skins obtainable in game. There are armor and weapon skins available in the gem store, and you can choose. And if something really strikes your eye, like it's something Krista has told me is her, like there's a lot of times she says like, oh, I found something at the store that's cute, and I'm just like, okay, sure, did you get it? And she's like, no, because I didn't really love it. Which I equate, like I know exactly how that feels because that's how I felt about the Griffin skin, the Lion Griffin skin, because I love the hell out of it. That is the only skin I use on my Guardian.
Yeah.
Like that's the only Griffin, like I specifically use that for my Guardian to run around on. But it's one of those things where gliders, which are kind of muddied but are far more restricted. Like they're kind of muddied by the legendary gliders existing, but kind of not, because they're legendaries and those are the only 3 gliders you can get in game. And then mounts are even more so because there is no other cosmetic option but buying the skins for the stuff in game. And I know, you know, the in game of gold to gems, like that's already in the price consideration, like we just talked about.
Yeah, and I was saying, I think to argue, you know, on Jim's side here about, you know, like chat saying you can grind for it. Yeah, but trust me, this system is not designed for people to do that. Like,
Nope.
Honestly, I don't know if it's still the case because I haven't hopped in there as of recently, but if you go to Neverwinter Online, the simplest stuff was like 1 million astral diamonds, which is what their premium currency was, that you could convert into it slowly, just because, and the conversion rate was so crappy to do that because so many people went that route. If everybody went the route of you could just grind it, it slowly becomes less and less obtainable.
Which is the same way Guild Wars 2's system is. If everybody stopped buying gems, it would be impossible to buy gems with gold. Like if everybody, my use of worse was along the lines of, yeah, well, that's the problem, is that just because 2K and EA exist doesn't mean that the systems in Guild Wars 2 still aren't bad. It's just there's also still this giant mountain of shit with the EA logo on it. Comparatively speaking, the pile of crap in ArenaNet's corner is relatively small, but it's still there. There is no finite amount of shit that companies can do.
Yeah. Just concerning Zechariah's point, I would say, like, yes, you can grind for stuff, but that is going to be a fraction of the community versus the more majority of people who will go like, I could grind for this, or I could pull up my wallet. Oh, I've already pulled up my wallet. Like,
well, it's
and I would argue, if you look at the past, when there's been lucrative places where you could grind, like leather farms, what has happened to them? Yeah. So
the shit out of it.
It's just more accessible to buy things and then do the content that you want, rather than a day farming and then buying what you want and then playing.
Well, it's one of those things where if you are determined, yes, you can farm for the gems. Anybody who is determined can do that. But in much the same way that, pulling from my MMO champion moderator experience, we have people that are serial ban evaders and they just keep creating accounts and creating accounts and creating accounts. Very few people I've been moderating since close to the just before Wrath of the Lich King released. Very few. I think I can say there are less than 20 serial evaders in the amount of time I have moderated on MMO champion. Less than 20 that I have seen. Because getting around a ban, posting, getting banned again, getting around a ban, posting, getting banned. It's the process of creating the new email, creating the new account, posting, getting caught, lather, rinse, repeat. Making something onerous makes people not want to do it. It's more effective than just flat out telling people they're not allowed to do it. You make it difficult. Better question. What's worse, bad Wi-Fi or no Wi-Fi?
No Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with, like, you want to see people rage? Give them bad Wi-Fi.
Oh, because at least you don't have it. You're like, well, all right, I'll, you know.
Exactly.
But like, if it's there, you keep checking, like, oh.
And it gets okay, either of you ever have dial-up?
I mean, just about 30 minutes ago, I had no internet.
Yeah, exactly. Right there. Like that stutter, and sometimes the download just fails because it times out. That's bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So bad Wi-Fi in this case is gold to gems.
Yeah. I get it.
And I'm on Zekriox's point here. Like I even said, I just want one mount skin with maybe 2 die channels. So like an armored, like a war mount or something. Like you get you get the mount, you max out the masteries for that mount, you get a reward track. Or not a reward track, like a collection. And you get that collection. At the end of that collection, you get an armor, like a skin for the mount that Like even just one thing in game, maybe two, but like
I would say like give me the default skin with 4 die channels, and I get that through a collection, and that's it. That's all I would ask for. I'd be happy with that.
Zekriox, people having the time, patience, and sanity to keep making accounts like that, it's mostly just time. It's nothing about patience or sanity. It's mostly just people with way too much time on their hands.
Yeah. But going back to the video, I think there was one thing that really stood out to me. And it was one of the, well, two things, but one of the things was interesting is that he pointed towards a study that showed that one of the game companies took out loot boxes but had all their other monetization options, and they noticed that the drop from the loot box sales only happened for addicted gamblers, and that the rest of the sales remain unaffected. So you still have the whales and everything.
Well, yeah, it was like the average. Well, the whales are the addicted gamblers. So
Yeah.
removing that mechanic dropped the problem demographic down to the rest of the consumer base being like, there's something nice in there that I might get. I'll throw $5 at it. Like that's me with the Black Lion chest. Is every so often I'll buy 5 keys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. And if I get nothing out of it, I get nothing out of it. Oh, well, I'm not just going to sit there buying more and more keys.
But it could be that next one.
It could be, but I don't care because, oh, well.
Yeah. The other point I think is important is just that people, how I say this, there are people who use games as a way to, as escapism, not like I would say healthy escapism, like, you know, just to get away from the world for a little bit, to immerse themselves in a different world, or immerse themselves in a character to help that person through their struggles, all that type of stuff. And honestly, you know, would you rather your kid play video games for 4 hours a day, or, you know, do drugs? You know, it's not that hard. But the thing is, addictive gambling is one issue, and that a person tried to use games as an escape. I think there was 2 scenarios in there that people tried to use as, you know, as an escape to keep their mind off it, you know, just to immerse themselves in something other than that. And when you have loot boxes in there, it creates a problem for them, and that's why people. I wouldn't be surprised if people are very wary of games that have loot boxes, so they have to ask before they actually buy it, or they need to know before they buy it. Because,
well, then even then the problem there is there are games where they add the loot boxes in 6 months after release.
Exactly. And then and that became a problem. So like they have to ask, are you going to add loot boxes after you put the game out? That's the type of thing that we fall into.
Because I think the one guy, he played Call of Duty with his brother, and then they did that, and and
it's just it's very, very brutal, and you know, people will have to like give up gaming as a hobby entirely if they, like, at this point that we're heading to.
Though, see, and I know this is gonna make me sound like a jerk about it. Trust me, I don't think this is like loot boxes are a good idea at all. But my issues with the video are, once again, he's saying how it's preying on people's psychological tendencies and human nature. So was his video. From the very get-go, he's talking about our family, our group. That's human nature of being in a pack, to be like, every YouTuber does, not just him. Like, it's like, join my community. You're like, we'll be friends. Like, but also playing the like kind of sad music behind the two scenarios once again.
I saw that. I kept a straight bias. Like, it makes sense what he was talking about, like disregarding.
But I mean, like, honestly, did he link maybe the uh, the research that he was talking about, a game that removed their.
Hang on. Let me,
Okay,
I
because I'd be
don't,
curious to see
I don't
that,
know.
but
I found that interesting if it is true. So
yeah, I was gonna say I'd be curious to see that, but also the horrible thing of he found two people, and I know there's loads of people. You know, I forget the statistic of like if you think about all the people that you have met in your life, that's only like a small percentage of the actual population of the world. But
there
two
is no
people,
link
I
to
think,
that study.
yeah,
there
I'd
isn't.
have to go watch.
I
I'd
can,
have to rewatch the video.
yeah,
Okay.
but I think
But
those are
the problem
just
is like there was just two scenarios he gave. Those they could also be outliers. Like, unfortunately, medicine and all that stuff do not make the general medicine doesn't cover outliers. I mean, general research doesn't cover the small groups unless that is specifically what you're trying to go, design something for, which so it's just
I'm gonna disagree with that. I feel like if you are going to negatively affect a group of people, no matter what, I feel like you should address it in some respect.
then there would be no research that existed because research when you're studying it, you tend to have basically it's called the power, at least from what I've learned, is you either set it at 0.01 or 0.05, which means how wrong are you willing to be. So 1% of the time or 5% of the time. And the way I think about it is how wrong are you willing for a population to die? Are you willing to like have it be, and this is how you judge it, because if it is not a medically serious thing that would kill someone, you'd probably set it at a power of 5. If it is something that is life threatening, you would try to minimize as much as possible with an error rate of 1%.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
feel like
just,
a person going broke buying loot boxes is a problem. You
but I'm
know,
just saying that we have
I,
it could
or
potentially be an outlier. Like
I think the biggest issue with a lot of this stuff is more to the fact that games are using casino-like
Mhm.
setups to get people to spend more money, and they are not beholden to the same regulations that casinos are. And that really is the biggest problem. So they can't have their cake and eat it too. If they want to use the gambling mechanics, they have to say, this is a gambling game, which means that they would instantaneously need to be slapped with an AO rating, because you, at that point, you must be 18 or older in the United States at the very least to gamble. I don't know if that varies from state to state here, but that's like the whole thing is you would need to be an adult wherever you are in order to purchase that game. And the problem is AO games do not sell in the US at all. Like the ESR, I don't remember the last time the ESRB actually like slapped an AO on a game. Hi, Kit.
sure. But
so yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, if Fortnite became an adult only game,
well, see, that's the thing is Fortnite does not have loot boxes. I believe you directly purchase things. I could be wrong. I don't play Fortnite.
I thought they did. At least they used to.
Well, unless you agree with my idea that battle royales are literally just loot boxes turned into a game.
You can buy loot boxes.
You can buy loot boxes in Fortnite. Okay,
they're
But
like
I think we're kind of like,
that you get random.
okay.
but I think we're kind of like going into all the stuff we've talked about over and over again. But
yeah,
I mean,
but essentially, it's just like
I honestly think things are coming to an end for loot box type things. Hopefully,
I sure as hell hope so.
it's
a
more like,
lot more governments are starting to be like, kind of like, I think what Jim's mentality is like, well, you want to do gambling, but you don't want the, paperwork
You don't
behind
want
it.
the bad press. You don't want the bad press.
This is good gambling, but it's still gambling. Yeah, but it's good gambling. You're still saying that word, like, but
that word you keep saying it.
Yeah. It's just how you find a solution. So it's either you put on the 18+ rating, or you get rid of them, or you try to fight it until you fight it for years and still keep the loot boxes in, or you slowly transition to like non-loot box mechanics.
I was just gonna say, ultimately, I'm worried what the alternative is gonna be because it's not gonna be better.
It
might be psychologically better for people, but I don't think it's gonna be better for the consumer.
I honestly think it's gonna go towards more subscription-based stuff. We've seen it for E3 this year.
So like, Guild Wars 2 would remove Blackline chests, but be like, hey, for $15 a month, we'll give you that equivalent in gems, and you can do what you want with it.
I would much rather pay for a subscription for Guild Wars 2 than loot boxes.
Well, I mean, they would give you the gems, be like, you can spend them all any way you want in the gem store, like with the stuff this week.
According to government.
He's trying so hard. And Age is being serious.
I'm being serious.
I am too. I'm just trying to move the podcast along.
I do have to go order Thai food, so.
Okay, fine.
And Tentacon. But yeah, this week in the gem store, we have, kind of speaking of mounts, but don't worry, this isn't a gambling mount pack. Can't believe I had to say that line. The Sky Scale Ascension mounts pack, which you can kind of see here, which I think is another issue of, we have 5 here, but I would say 3 are only really like the ones that I would see selling in a gem store as like, because the other 2, because you have the Caldera Sky Scale skin, the Axejaw Sky Scale skin, the Flare Marked Sky Scale skin, the Bioluminescent Sky Scale skin, and the Branded Sky Scale skin. But the two of them kind of, like Jim was saying before, kind of just give you more die channels and are kind of the standard look for them. But the 3 that you're seeing here are kind of like the more unique looking skins that you'll see.
See, I don't mind the ones that are that are just like, here, have a die channel. I just kind of wish that they weren't
in
like
the gem
locked,
store.
that they weren't locked behind a pack, or they had equal value to stuff that actually was different.
Hey, chat, no judging. I mean, hey, if you have the money for it, and go for it. More power to you.
You've got the money and you've got the Sky Scale and you like it, go for it.
Yeah, that is important to note. This does not somehow give you the Sky Scale mount. It just gives you a skin for when you do get it. You will have skins for it. So don't think this is a shortcut way.
You cannot actually buy
gems.
game mechanics.
Surprise game mechanics, right? But yeah, you can pick that up for 2,000 gems. I mean, I think it looks pretty cool. Like
I like the blue one.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the whorls and the patterns and stuff on the wings. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Yeah, the Sparkle Dragon wasn't my shtick. It looks cool, but it's a little too much for me.
But yeah, so you can pick that up for 2,000 gems. We got returning stuff. The Cosmic Mining, Logging, and Harvesting Tools for 1,000 gems each. The MAAD Scientist Mining, Logging, and Harvesting Tools for 1,000 gems each. The Shifting Sands Mining Pick for 1,000 gems. The Chop It All Logging Axe for actually 700 gems, 30% off. The Glitter Bomb Harvesting Tool and the Thresher Sickle 5,000, both also for 700 gems apiece, which are both 30% off. But also limited time, you got the Enchanted Dragon Crown package for 500 gems, which I think we showed a little bit off last week. Is that the one that was last week? Or no, that's the Sky Scale horns. Never mind. Been a week. But the Scale Dragon Wings Backpack Glider combo for 700 gems.
Oh.
Any of those that you would recommend as like returning items to maybe gobble up?
If I remember right, the Enchanted Dragon Crown was pretty cool looking. And I think it came with 2 versions, one that was plain and one that was extra glittery.
I think so, yeah.
So.
The Cosmic set is kind of cool because it opens like almost like a portal and like the stars just like shoot down on it. And
I kind of wish that like these items returning would also return with the bundle version. Like, so you can get all 3 of them for 2,700. I think that would be a better thing. Although all this artificial scarcity on stuff is one of the things that kind of makes me want to shake ArenaNet, because the
I agree, chat. It would be nice to see more of this stuff in game, but
I'll never put mining, logging, or harvesting tools.
infinite tools. No, the ones you buy in game are designed as a currency sink.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole drive for this is the convenience.
At least you can get the ley line and volatile magic ones.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they add the like, then they had the alchemist ones in the game too for a bit. So,
but any other thoughts on the gem store?
it's a gem store sale.
Yeah,
Nothing super standoutish.
yeah. I was gonna say basically the new mount pack if you're interested in it, but unfortunately it's all for one mount. So,
Yep.
But last up we have Community Corner. A video from Games Love and Life did an in-depth event guide for Dragonfall Burning Forest Path. We'll throw the link in the description, and if you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube, for the recording part, it should be in the description. But there's the link there. Nice, little video. Like it's like one of those things. Like I don't want to talk about it like because it's kind of a guide to give you tips. If I said them, you wouldn't have to watch the video. But go support content creators. So click on the link. Like it's one of those awkward things where I'm like, I want to talk about it, but there's not much like without saying. It's like it shows you how to do the Dragonfall Burning Forest Path. I don't know how else to. If I told you, you wouldn't click on it.
So I need to throw a bunch of embers for that achievement.
There you go. Arlie had to step out this week. She couldn't handle all the red shirts that we totally planned.
Arlie with her, I think 3 sets of the flutes. I want to say.
Oh, I have no idea. She has tons.
and that's just the flutes. I could be wrong. She might only have 2 sets of the flutes, but I think she said she had something like 6 or 7 full sets.
But yeah, kind of a small community corner this week. Now we're from the Star Trek version where we're legit. We're good.
Yeah, we're from Next Generation. We're all officers.
Yeah. But yeah, that looks like that is it for this week. Jim, where can they find you?
I can be found on Twitter at MalthanusMMO. You can also find me live on twitch.tv/MadRealms every Wednesday, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern time for Vote to Kick and Zero to Hero. I'm going to try and get Vote to Kick with Arlie about vertical progression out this week. It's just been a time getting the thumbnails, the title cards together, because I've downloaded Photoshop myself, and I'm working on that because my normal title card creator is swamped with very complicated books, and I'm pretty sure if my wife knew how to punch someone through the internet, they wouldn't have a client anymore. But I hope to see you all this Wednesday, and don't forget to go to the YouTube channel and vote on me and Deo's discussion about, I can't remember the
difficulty.
Topic. Oh yes, difficulty options. So go watch that. Go vote on that. Tell us why in the comments.
Tell me why I should win. And Age, where can they find you?
You find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, or I don't know if I'm gonna stream this week. I'm feeling a little down, and I just want to chill, enjoy games. But I will be watching TennoCon with Deo later after this, if you're here live. And next week, Tuesday, we will have the Warframe podcast. Dale will tell you all about that.
I guess I'll tell you all about it. But yeah, you can find me at simply_Dale on Twitch and Twitter. Like Age was saying, we are going to be starting our Warframe podcast coming up this Tuesday on Twitch. It will come up a little bit later on YouTube.
The dog does not approve.
Yeah, well, tough. It's happening. Yes, but you can find everything, even when you're watching this. We put it up on. We go live on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. But we do put it up on YouTube, just youtube.com/MAAD, 2 A's in the MAAD. That goes up on Sundays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. But if you want to watch the Warframe podcast or this podcast, or some of the other stuff that we have planned, like Vote to Kick and all that stuff, go to maadrealms.com, and it'll be one nice little cozy place for you. Yeah, I think that is it for this week. And before my dogs bark one more time, we'll see you next week and in the game. Good night, everybody.